Hi class, as this course moves along, I think you're starting to see that there's a story developing here. And what it comes down to is marketing is about developing strategy. How am I going to attack this in order to get customers on my side and want to buy my product? And so it starts with understanding how people make decisions and what is it that they value. And then it's the landscape, meaning I need to know what I'm going to invade. So I need to be able to look at what information that I need in order to make decisions. And then once I have that, then I can start thinking about segmentation. Okay, here are the targets. Which ones do I want to go after? But then how can I attack those targets? And that's what the 4 Ps are, and that's what we're starting to get into next. Now, one thing that's probably giving you consternation are the quizzes. Now, on the first quiz, you're actually doing pretty good. Class average was 69 and the high score was 90. Why is that high score so important? Because it tells me whether or not the quiz was doable. If the grades were really low, like one semester I had a high score of 76 and that told me the quiz was too hard. But the fact that somebody can get 90% right tells me that the quiz is doable. Quiz 2, you did a little bit better, but the interesting thing is the high end went up quite a bit. 3 people got a score of 95. The problem is that the low end, people started dropping off. Now, in looking at these quizzes, what is in it exactly? Well, 40% is what you're used to. Those are knowledge questions. If you know anything about this class, if you know the slides, you should be able to get 40%. 40% you really have to study, meaning I'm not testing you on knowledge. I'm testing on whether or not you can apply this information. Basically, the videos and the readings and everything else pretty much comes down to making a toolbox. And so when you read these problems, do you know what tool to pull out of the box? In the last 20%, you got to be really good. I mean, these are hard problems. Because what's the point to an exam? To get separation, to see who really knows what's going on and who doesn't. Why do I give you a conceptual exam? It's actually pretty funny. I had a student who was actually an air management major, and at the end of the semester, she sent me, I really wish I'd saved that email, but she said, I was really skeptical about the way you taught and what you were teaching us. And then I realized what it is you really want us to do. You want us to think. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty funny, but I get what she was getting at. And that's that you're used to just, you get asked a question, you look up the answer and whatever. Well, guess what? You're going to be replaced by AI. What separates you from AI is your ability to see what problems really are and to apply different kinds of knowledge to a problem. My big mission as a teacher is I want to prepare you for industry. And what's going to define your entire careers are the decisions that you make. And so I'm giving you a conceptual exam that if you can see what the problem is and look at the concepts, and these problems aren't really that hard. Now, I've heard the complaints about, oh, these are just trick exams. Well, guess what? The SAT is a trick exam. The LSAT is a trick exam. The PMP exam is a trick exam for those of you who are going to go get certified in anything. Oh, they're all trick exams. Or maybe, just maybe, multiple choice exams become vulnerable to people thinking they're trick exams. But what they really are about is trying to figure out what they're testing you for. I'm testing you to see if you understand the basic ideas of what this course is about. And quite frankly, if you look at the basic idea, then details normally fall out naturally. And so there really isn't that much to remember. Now, I've been asked, why don't you give us a quiz where the average is 90? Okay, if you remember, here's the thing about a quiz. You will not do as well as your peak performance. You just won't, because under pressure, everybody will do a little bit less than they do. So if you look at the 40-40-20, you would expect class average to be 80. However, I think you're doing well if class average is 70. Why? Because under pressure, yeah, you choke. I choke. But in order to get an average of 90, it means you have to give a quiz where the potential is everybody can get 100. And the problem with when you lower the bar that much is you can't tell who knows what's going on and who doesn't know what's going on. And by making a harder quiz, this is my opportunity to figure out to be able to separate all of you. And that's why the quizzes tend to be harder. However, in terms of your grade, I try to soften the impact. And that's that I curve every quiz, meaning if you do average in the class, the average on the quizzes, I curve to 82. Not only that, but I drop your lowest score. Essentially, I'm giving you every opportunity. Now here's the other dirty secret about these quizzes. You actually get a lot of questions right. Meaning out of 20 questions, there are only about 4 or 5 tops where the entire class does failing. Essentially, you're getting 80%, 70%, so on and so forth on 15 of the problems. So it's not a question of people not being able to do these problems. It's a question of getting enough questions right for a high score. And when you only have 20 questions, you miss a couple and all of a sudden you're down in a B. That's just the nature of what it is. An example is I was once in a tennis tournament and my partner and I lost. And we lost 6-7, 6-7, 6-0, 6-1, 6-7. We actually won more games in 5 sets. The problem is that we lost all the tiebreaker sets. And so I knew a guy who was a good player, and he was kind of like my informal coach. And he just told me, you won enough games to win the match, but the thing is you have to win the right games to win a match. Anyway, I'm going to go over the problems that basically you failed. I was shocked that this was an under 50% correct problem. Why is trial so important? I talk about it in the lectures. It's part of a chain. If you miss a link, it won't work. Maybe. It depends on the judge. If a customer tries my product, I believe he will want to buy it. And that's the key to trial. Trial means I am closer to consideration, which is true. Here's the other thing about multiple choice exam. It's not about the right answer. It's about the best answer. Now you're saying, these two answers are so close. That's not really fair. Well, first of all, I would say to you, too bad. Life's not fair. Deal with it. But the thing about it is that there are these slight differences are actually very significant. And when you go out and work in the industrial world, you picking an inferior solution to something else, and there really isn't much difference between it, makes a difference between success and failure. You have to be constantly looking at being more competitive by finding the better solutions. Subscription services. Now here's the thing about problems. They're either top down or bottoms up, meaning I can read the question and figure out what I'm looking for in an answer. Or from the question itself, I can't figure out what I'm looking for. So I need to look at what the answers are, and that's bottoms up. So in a question like this, subscription services have exploded as a business. Part of the reason why it's so lucrative is that people tend to let their subscriptions run too long instead of canceling them when they no longer want it. This is an example of what kind of behavior. What it comes down to is a lot of you didn't understand from the lecture what do, know, feel means, or feel, do, know. And that's do is, how do I act? Know is, I know what I want to do. And then feel is, okay, how do I feel about it afterwards? And the thing is, people in subscription services, they act. And that's why you just let it run over. You don't think about it. And then you know what you did. Because you did pick and continue. And then you sit down and think about, okay, how did I feel about that? And this is different than hedonists who do feel and know. I act, how do I feel? Or actually they feel first, then they do, and then they know. This is actually a true question. I actually knew the guys who were in charge of XM radio, and they asked me about XM radio, and I told them, you're too expensive. Now, when we read this question, what are the key pieces of information I want? So it's a monthly subscription fee for $19.95 a month. Some thought the price is too high because radio is for free. However, those who spend long periods of time on the radio, they already paid the fee and they enjoy the service. And so after initial success, sales have gone flat. What does it mean when I grow and then I suddenly go flat? It's the chasm. So I need to think of ways to get across the chasm. That's the situation I'm dealing with. So what's the best way to get growth going again? And so when you have a problem like this, on a scratch piece of paper, write down what the keywords are. When you look at a problem, look at the keywords. The keywords here are monthly subscription, price is too high, sales have gone flat. Those are the key points in this question. So if I look at it, now the other thing is that people, it tells you, people are familiar with the product. And this is actually what the XM guys said to me. Should we run more TV ads? And I just said, people already know your product. It's like, I don't see where, increasing awareness is going to help you any. So run TV ads is probably isn't going to work. Give a month free trial. Well, why do we give sampling? And this goes back into the trial question. If they try it, they'll like it, and maybe they'll sign up. But is that the reason why they're not using it? And is it because of ignorance? They just don't know how to use it. And nowhere in the problem does it say that's a problem. You can only use the information that's in the problem, not what you imagine it to be. And that's one problem students have. So what it comes down to is drop the price. And that's that it's too high. And the problem even tells you that the price was too high since radio is for free. So all the information you needed to answer this question was right here. What you do is need to get into a habit of looking at what are the pieces of information and what is the question asking me, and then start eliminating answers. So as you see, this problem really wasn't that bad. Which of the following is the easiest product to sell? This comes out of the lecture. And that's that it talked about how you have to, get people to do things. But it's about want and needs. That it's a lot easier to sell a need than it is to sell a want. And this is why entrepreneurs are always talking about the pain, the pain, the pain. The pain is a lot easier to sell. And so, from the value proposition, economic, utility, emotional, and gloves that reduce pain. And so the easiest product to sell is reducing pain. And so that you get out of the behavioral economics lecture. If I had to pick a second one, I'd probably pick a shirt that makes you look slimmer. Because emotion. Motion is a very powerful effect. Okay, on the second quiz, 56% of you got this right. The selling point of a Tesla is many software features and the longest battery. I don't understand why you didn't do well on this question. What is it excelling at? And so here is basically, do you understand what excelling at something is? And this is out of the strategy lecture. Is it the best product? Is it customer intimacy? Do I know the customer better than anyone else? Is it the best price? And none of these answers are correct. Well, Tesla has many software features and the longest battery life. The fact it says longest means that it's better than anybody else, so it's the best product. And so that's the answer. This one, you have a lot of information, and so I would probably leave this question last. Here's the thing about multiple choice exams. What I normally did was, if I couldn't solve the problem in my head within the first 15 seconds, I skip it and go to the next question. And then you find out you've got this big chunk of time, so you could take your time on the hard questions. Bovine has entered the online meat selling business. You pick a cow online and decide how much you want to purchase. Quarter cow, half cow. I've actually done this before. Honestly, I just like buying the pieces myself because it all depends on what cow you get. Bo is picking market segments of true believers. These are health-conscious people who would appreciate organic meat. Okay, so one thing the question tells you is that the people are meat eaters. They are a $2 billion market and growing at 20% per year. Bo's goal is to reach $200,000 in revenue. So tell me, if you have a $2 billion market and it's growing at 20% per year, and your goal is only to get $200,000 in that market, do you need a significant portion? No, you don't. As a matter of fact, the growth is bigger than what you want. So in analyzing this segment, which of the following is not a concern? So when I start going through this, health-conscious people, big market growing, and it tells you about segment. And so, and I just accidentally told you the answer. But what it comes down to, you have to be careful when you read questions too, is not a concern. And so the segment can be heterogeneous. Some of these people might be vegans. Yeah, but it's very small, because the question tells you health-conscious people who appreciate organic meat. Defense against competitors doesn't say anything about competitors. Customers may be more interested in getting fresh meat than the health aspects. I don't know, maybe. And so what it comes down to is the thing that's not a concern is the segment size. And that you can definitively say is not an issue. And so what answers that you could be right, could be wrong, well, that's probably not going to be the right answer because you need a definitive answer. Maybelline, get it? Wants to start a cosmetics company and is pitching her idea to investors. She says she is going after the global market of women over 40. In evaluating her proposed market, the investors laugh in her face. Were they right or wrong to laugh at her? Okay, so this is going to be a bottoms-up question. But what are the keywords here? A market of women over 40. Tell me, how well defined is women around the world over 40? Not very well defined, is it? And so, they're right, her segment is too broad. Yeah, because what kind of targeting is that? They're right, her segment is hard to defend. And so we know from segments if they're too broad or whatever, it's very hard to defend. They're wrong, the size of the market is considerable, so you can't easily dismiss it. Well, that's true too. If I have it's just like the bovine question. If I have a humongous market and I only need a very small part of it, then maybe I can just grab it because it's just a small niche. All the other answers listed here are all right. Now, here's the thing about this kind of answer. What it comes down to is if two of these are right, then this has got to be the right answer. And so all you really need to do is figure out that two are right, and you can get the whole thing. So there is a kind of certain strategy with multiple choice exams. Actually, it's kind of funny, kind of embarrassing. When I took the SAT and then I took the GMAT, well, I studied for the SAT and I tried to do the problems as problems. And then when I took the GMAT, which was a lot like the SAT, I didn't study at all, but I used better strategy, and I did. My math was exactly the same. It was 790. For the life of me, I can't figure out what I got wrong. I always will make a stupid mistake somewhere. That's just who I am. I'll get careless, and I'll get one wrong. And I got 790 on the SAT math also, although on the subject exams I got 800. Anyway. I did 70 points better on the SAT. I mean, on the GRE, just because of better strategy. Anyway, this one you did really not well on. Only 70% got it right. GoPro, the action camera, was founded on understanding who their customer was. 15 to 28, male, extreme sports enthusiast, social media active. Now, here's the thing. Who is their customer? And so this is who they picture, who their customer is. A young guy who's an extreme sports enthusiast, and he's on social media a lot. And what it comes down to is a lot of you said market segment. But if you remember the tiers of marketing, this describes a persona, and persona means archetype. And this is why archetype is actually a better answer than market segment. So, that's it. Anyway, good luck to you on this week's quiz. Hopefully this helped you a little bit. And if you have any questions, please let me know as we continue on into the 4 Ps.